Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Two Bi Guys. I'm always excited for every episode, but I'm especially excited to see my friend again. He was here last season. He's back again, and he wrote a book. He is the founder of the support site Not Defining, a space for anyone struggling with their sexuality, gender, or identity. He is an ICF certified integrative coach and LGBTQ plus mentor. He uses he or they pronouns, so I'm using he, but he also uses they. And he is now the author of a new book titled Fluid, a guide for people with fluid sexuality. Welcome back to Two Bi Guys, Mark Cusack. Hello.
Thank you so much, Rob. And the excitement is all mine. Thank you so much for having me back. I enjoyed it so much the first time. I just had to come back and chat with you again.
Good. I'm glad. I love when we have two bi guys here, two fluid guys. It's always lovely to have repeat guests, and we already know everything about you. I mean, we know as much as we could know from 90 minutes. So now we get to just chat and also hear a ton about your new book, which I read much of and gave an endorsement of, and it's lovely. So I'm excited to get into it. How have you been since I saw you last? What's new?
And thank you so much. I was really excited to send you a little sneak peek of our book, being such an amazing voice, for our community. And thank you so much for taking a look and endorsing it. I felt very honored. But it's
You're welcome.
been very, very busy since we last spoke, not least because I've had this new book kind of being announced. But also, I have been doing lots of things, working on my YouTube, Not Defining, and my Instagram, and building my kind of my community and things. And I've also moved from Dublin, Ireland, to Liverpool, and I've been settling in there. So life is good.
Oh, lovely. I only know Liverpool from that song. In me Liverpool home. Do you know that song? We used to sing it at summer camp. Is that a song that you know of there?
I actually have never heard of that song. Maybe it's like an old, thing from American people who came from there. I don't know, but
Maybe.
I'm fresh off the boat. I'm new in Liverpool, so I have much to learn.
If you come across that song, let me know. In me Liverpool home, we speak with an accent exceedingly rare. If you want a cathedral, we've got one to spare.
This is amazing.
I forget all the words. In me Liverpool home.
What
I'll send you.
summer camp did you go to, Rob? This is amazing.
Camp Walt Whitman, and they never brought up that he was bisexual. They named the camp after him, and we never heard anything about his queerness until I left the camp. Anyway.
Oh, wow.
But somebody named it after him, so somebody liked him for some reason, and
somebody was bi.
Somebody was bi and was invisible to me, but
that's
as always happens.
Yeah, so typical.
All right, well, cool. Let me know if you come across that song. Congrats on the move and on all the stuff you're doing. As we were just talking about beforehand, we're in very similar spaces, kind of coming at it in different ways. You're more on YouTube, I'm more the podcast, but we're converging and learning from each other. And now we've both written books. So tell us about like how this book came about and what it was like working on it.
Sure. And yeah, I was very pleased because, of course, this is the second most fabulous new book on the kind of topic of bi multisexuality. Obviously, the first being yours.
Thank you.
And it was so strange how it happened because, as content creators, we might do a podcast, we might do YouTube, we might do this or that, but really what we're trying to do is just give visibility to our identity and our community in any way that we can when people will kind of listen to us, right? And so I've done various things like very, very short form content, like TikTok and Twitter and X and threads and all of that kind of stuff, up to the kind of longer form content that where people can get more detail. But I always wanted to kind of like put all of that, like everything that I know, into one place. And
Mm.
so I was absolutely delighted to be able to write this book. And I was really, really lucky that JKP Publishers, who are a fantastic LGBT publisher, kind of helped me to make that happen. And I wanted to write about the topic of fluid sexuality, because really there's not been any guidebook written about this topic. I realized, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was just really keen to make it
Cool.
happen.
Cool. I'm so glad you did. And I'm so glad we have a book like titled Fluid, because, you know, we're all on this similar mission of like multi-gender, multi-spectrum attraction, you know, pansexuality, bisexuality, queerness, fluidity. And fluid was a word that I connected with initially a ton, even more than the word bi, which I now love. But like fluid was the one that brought me in, I think. And the discussion group I started going to that allowed me to come out, which was by request, you know, it has bi in the name, but the subtitle of that discussion group was always like, um, for anyone with fluid, multi-spectrum, or questioning identities.
Ooh.
And it was so much more broad. And the fluid part of it was like, okay, I don't need to know if I'm bi specifically to start to have these conversations. Like, I know that I'm fluid, at least. Like, I don't know what I am, but I know I'm that. And that led me down this road. And actually your book and your whole mission is a little bit like, fluid is a thing, is its own thing. Like, and so tell me, like, what does the word fluid mean to you, and what is fluid sexuality?
I'm so interested to hear that experience from you, because that's really my experience as well. And my kind of platform is called Not Defining, because it's all just about the fact that I grew up being like, well, I'm a bit of this and a bit of that, and maybe this one day and that the other day, but I'm not really sure, and it doesn't really,
Yeah.
have to fit in one box. So that's really fluidity, isn't it? So um, I kind of spent most of the beginning of the book, obviously, just kind of like setting out like, what is fluid sexuality? What do we mean when we say this? And so really, it's a kind of something that is between definitions, and that's kind of what makes it so tricky to understand. But essentially, the way I see it, and of course, my definition in my whole book is just one idea about fluidity. But the way that I see it is that pretty much everyone who has attraction has some fluidity in their attraction, right? Because even if you're monosexual, even if you're straight or gay or what have you, we all like different things at different times, right? We might
Mm-hmm.
like tall people, small people, large people, we might be romantically attracted to like one particular person at one time, and then later on in life it kind of changes, or our kind of sexuality and things changes. So we all actually are fluid in our attraction, full stop. It's just that we've decided in society that gender is this really, really finite, important factor in attraction that
Mm-hmm.
we have to codify and make our identity. So if it so happens that gender is one of the things that can be quite fluid for you, among all the other things, then that's different. And so we have to have a word for it, whereas it's not really different. And so fluidity for me is really, I think, any significant change that you feel is important to you in terms of, I want to communicate that in your attraction. So that might be, okay, I'm attracted to different genders and it changes or shifts or evolves. but it might also be types of people, but it just really means any type of significant change or shift in your attractions. That's it.
Yeah. Cool. You're really speaking my language. I mean, I know we've crossed paths and talked about this stuff before, but it's like, I mean, I just keep coming back to this idea that society boils down relationships based on gender, and that always ends up being how we define our sexuality and our identity. And it's like, okay, fine. Like to some extent, I get it because straightness is so pervasive. It's like but like there's so many different spectrums of things. And once you break the gender barrier and you realize your fluidity there, you start to notice it in all these other ways too. And straight people are doing that too. Straight people are fluid
Yeah.
in their sexuality, maybe not related to gender, but in so many other things. And yet we never talk about that fluidity, or it's accepted for other things but not for gender. So it's really like it makes sense. I loved what you said, that fluidity is like something that's between definitions. And when you really think about it, to me, everything is between definitions. Like a word or a label or any definition is an attempt to group something so that we as humans can process it and understand it and categorize. But actually, the truth of the universe is that all of those definitions are fake things we're creating to understand the world. And the truth is just, it exists, it is fluid, it's always between definitions. There, you can't fully ever define an experience. That's how I feel. What do you think?
I mean, that is just it. That is absolutely it. We've come to the truth of the universe. We're only a
We
little
figured
way
it out.
into our
Okay.
chat.
We figured it out. We're done.
Absolutely.
Good
What
talk. Okay,
happened
bye.
here? Let the record reflect that Mark and Rob found out
We
the truth.
cracked it.
But it kind of is, because you hit the nail on the head. Everything in this world, everything on this earth, in this universe is a spectrum, is fluid. Like our bodies, our experiences, our personalities, our emotions, nature, trees, the sky, like it's all a fluid spectrum. And so when we're talking about sexuality, it's not really sexuality. What you're actually talking about is the way you connect with another human being, right? So it's emotions, it's energies, it's
Yeah.
physical sensations, it's like the touch of skin, or the connection of personality, or the way somebody's eye contact makes you feel in your heart, or like this is so infinitely diverse. And so all of that happens on a complete, unique, magical spectrum. And that's what makes human beings so fabulous. And it's why it's so exciting, right?
Yeah.
It just wouldn't be so wonderful without it. And
Yeah.
so it's okay to have categories, because it helps us to generally say, okay, well, I'm generally this, I'm generally that. Okay, cool. But the problem comes when we believe that those categories are like true and scientific and immovable,
Right.
because scientifically, actually, they're not. And so that's what I work with so many people. And I know you coach people as well. So I'm sure you've had, people get so stuck, because they're like, actually, what's going on for me in reality, in my natural biological, psychological state, is really fluid and diverse. There's all
Hmm.
kinds of things going on, all of which is beautiful and wonderful.
Hmm.
But I feel like it's wrong because it
Yeah.
doesn't fit in this predefined category. And that's such a tragedy, because I just wish people would know that there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah. That actually tracks so much with many of my clients, and what we're working on is like I'm helping them get in touch with their authentic selves and their desires and their belief system and their feelings. And a lot of stress can come from getting in touch with that and then realizing it doesn't fit with the boxes like that we think we should fit into, or it doesn't fit with how people have seen me in the past, or Like it just doesn't
Mm.
fit. I think you said that. And like there's so much power in getting in touch with that even when it doesn't fit, and figuring out how to use language and how to use scientific concepts to explain it, but also not having to do that and just letting it be what it is, even if you can't explain it, even if other people don't understand it. And something I work on with a lot of clients and also with like friends and family now. I kind of do a little subtle coaching without them realizing it, but is like being okay with being outside of that box, like not judging yourself for that. Um, just feeling comfortable with the discomfort, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I've tried to do with the book, to not only define this term, because in the LGBTQ plus spectrum, we've got a lot of terms, um, right? And I talk about some of the other terms that we might use and stuff like that. But then also just really breaking down sexuality and how we understand it and helping people to actually pick apart all of those kind of maybe preconceived ideas or boxes or categories or expectations, and really getting down to that thing that you said, that authenticity, and then kind of like building it up from the base. And so in the book, there are some kind of like exercises, and I kind of guide people through so that you can actually understand what is going on in your body, your mind, and
Mm,
your heart when you're attracted to someone, and what is it that you actually like. And then once you know that, then how do you navigate life? How do you communicate it to people? How do you deal with
mm,
maybe some of the misunderstandings and bigotry that might come? And so I try to make it a kind of guidebook, either for somebody who is fluid or thinks they're fluid, but also for anyone who would just like to understand human attraction in a broader way. So
yeah. Lovely. Maybe in a few minutes, I'll ask you about some of those exercises because that might be helpful for people. But before we get there, like you kind of mentioned this, but I want to ask you more directly, like if gender is not, and gender is important and it's a big part of this book, and obviously we'll you can talk about that too. But besides gender, what are some of the other spectrums of sexuality or identity that you feel are important that often get overlooked?
so I think that one of the big ones is kind of degree of sexuality. So when we
I was
think
hoping
about,
you'd say that.
um, and I'm glad that you asked because, of course, we talk a lot about like fluid sexuality in terms of the genders or bi or multi-sexuality, but sexuality in itself is fluid in terms of the degree or the level of attraction that one person might feel. And so we have the term obviously asexual, which again, a lot of people think is finite. A lot of people think that if you're asexual, you don't like sex, you don't have attraction, you don't want a relationship. Some asexual people are like that. But like anything else, it's a spectrum. And we have all these ideas about how we should have a particular level of attraction. We should want sex, or we should want romantic relationships in a particular way um, that society ordains. And of course, that's just really, really fluid and really, really diverse depending on who you meet. So I I would say that I am very much fluid in my asexuality or my allosexuality, the kind of opposite,
Mhm.
because there have been times in my life when I've really, really not experienced sexual attraction, like
Mhm.
almost at all. And then there have been times when I really have, and it kind of fluctuates. So that's another
Yeah.
type, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I love that phrase you use, degree of sexuality, where you started, because like I do think that is so important and such a big part of this conversation. And we talked about asexuality last time. We got more into it, but it is funny how like that spectrum is often labeled the asexual spectrum, where asexual is the end point of, it's the extreme end of that. And so a lot of people hear that and they go, well, I'm not asexual, but actually like that maybe prevents you from finding your place on that spectrum and noticing how that shifts over time. And so, yeah, like maybe most of us aren't asexual, but let's talk about our degree of sexuality, right? Like that's a
Oh my
nice
gosh.
like way to think about it, an invitation to for people to explore that, even if they're not at the extreme end. And most people aren't at the extreme end of any spectrum.
Exactly. Most people are not at the extreme end
Yeah.
of any
Yeah.
spectrum, but we've been
Yeah.
led to think that we
Most
are.
of us are between definitions.
Yes.
I love that. I also think for me the one that I think people don't talk about enough is you mentioned it, like the energy and the dynamic and the power dynamics, and like playing with those kinds of energies and dominance, submission, not just in terms of sex, but in terms of like personality, stronger personalities versus like more I don't want to. I'm not sure what the other side of that spectrum is. It's not weakness. It's something else. Going with the
Softer,
flow. So yeah,
gentler. Yeah.
gentler. Yeah.
Me.
Um, me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And like, this is why, sexuality is so fascinating. It's absolutely amazing. And everyone has these like wonderful specificities and like different things that they like. And yet we just say, okay, what's your sexuality? Okay, I'm straight.
Right.
Okay, I'm
Right.
gay. Okay,
Right.
I'm bi. What does that tell you? Like, you
Yeah.
and me identify as bi, but well, we probably know because you and me talk about
We're
it a
pretty different.
lot, right? We're super different, and that's
Yeah.
fabulous. Like, that's so
Yeah.
cool and that's so interesting. We don't need to always like, say everything about our sex lives and everything. Well, I do online, but um,
Yeah. Me too. What do you
yeah,
mean? We do always have to share everything we do. Every sex
live on
act I
stage.
have goes into directly into social media. I
But
guess I should
most
do only. Should I be doing OnlyFans if this is how I feel? Me. Okay, no. Go on.
most people aren't like us, Rob. Believe it or not.
What
Um,
do you? How do you mean?
we're not normal, but that's the thing. It just like leaves out, and I think straight people get away with this. Straight people get away with a lot, but this is the thing. It's like, oh, I'm straight. What does that mean? There are
Yeah.
millions upon millions of straight people in this world, and they're all so different. And it's like
Right.
we don't see that diversity, and so young people growing up have these different experiences, and they have these different, feelings, and they're like, oh well, I don't know if this is right or wrong or
Yeah.
weird or broken. And then you get people,
Right.
getting into difficulties.
Right. I also think that's like when you come out as bi or gay or lesbian or anything else, like then people will start asking you questions. You do a lot of reflecting. You start to look at where you are on these other spectrums. And if you're default straight, like or really legitimately straight, there's often no reason, external or internal reason, to like explore all those other things. Like you just fit into this box and you don't even necessarily think about anything else. And or maybe you do but you don't share it. And I think that can box people in, because even if you're straight, you could be somewhere else on all these other spectrums, or have a kink, or have a dom sub dynamic that you prefer that's outside the norm, and it can be harder to share that or explore it. And so in some ways, being outside the straight box gives you this opportunity and power to explore all these other things that I wish, straight people could explore more too.
Yeah. And actually, they found in the research that has been done on fluidity, there's been kind of research that's been done on the way people identify. And then there's been research that's done on kind of pupil dilation and stuff like that, where, even if people identify one way, they get tested for fluidity, and actually there's a lot of variance within that. And it's one of my favorites. That's one of the things they found, was that the group who was both least likely to be truthful about their identity, and also least likely to know about their identity, was straight men, because straight
Shocker.
men would right would identify that way on the form, and then so they would find out that actually they had a lot of fluidity and lots of different stimuli they would put in front of them, and they would check their pupil dilation and other things. And so really that identity seems to be the most rigid, not only the most rigid in terms of like people not realizing their fluidity, but also people actually kind of actively fibbing and lying about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they say that bi people are untrustworthy and confused, and it's like, well, the
Actually,
scientific research that has been done,
scientifically, it's straight men.
it's you. Yeah.
And on that, actually, I noticed you posting a little about this recently, but in a for straight men, it feels like not only are they boxed in terms of sexuality, but in terms of masculinity also and their gender. Can you like it's in your book too, the gender spectrum and fluidity
Yeah.
there, but I guess specifically for to straight men, like what do you think on that topic of being exploring their masculinity?
Yeah, I think it's a really important kind of topic to talk about, particularly at the moment with stuff that's going on in society. But I think we kind of assume that we've got to be one way. So if we're born with a particular body, a particular set of genitals, like that means that we have to be a particular way and we have to be attracted to a particular gender. But it's never actually explained. And so if you kind of find that you naturally fit inside all of those conventions, then yay for you. But there are so many people who don't. And it's never, ever explained. So what I wanted to do with this book was to actually not only talk about fluid sexuality, but to actually open up gender and sexuality and break them down and say, this is actually what we're talking about when we say straight, right? What is that, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is happening to you in your body, in your mind, in your heart when you identify as man and you identify as hetero, and then you see a woman, like what is that? And there are so many different things going on. There's the actual physical sensation of two bodies, right, which can feel nice. And certain parts of our bodies have a lot of nerve endings, for example. So the right, so those
Which part? Okay.
Rob, I'm British, I'm polite, and
Finger. Fingers. Okay. Go on.
certain parts.
Okay.
The heart, Rob.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. And so those parts of the body are going to feel nice when they come into contact. But
Mm-hmm.
there's so much else that's happening because, as we know, people aren't actually just attracted to a physical body. Gender is not just a physical trait. It's a whole identity. It's an energy. And so then the way that you identify, so for example, I identify as masculine and identify as a man. So the way that my body feels against the body of somebody else who might feel different, then I feel good because certain bodily traits that I have are making that person feel good, and they're kind of creating that polarity. But then as well, the energy. So if I have
Yeah.
a masculine energy, well, what is that? What is masculine? Well, it means different things to different people, but it might be, for example, somebody who is powerful and dominant and assertive and what have you. Okay, so if you meet somebody then who's maybe more gentle and soft and shy, whatever, then those traits are going to feel good because of that polarity, and you feel good, like I've got something to give, right? So like I've got something to give this person and they've got something to give which complements me. So it's all about polarity in physical and kind of emotional traits. And so that doesn't really get explained to people. And so they don't really understand that, okay, I can have a physical body that might be strong, muscular, and powerful
Mm-hmm.
physically,
Mm-hmm.
but I might also have gentle traits, and I
Yeah.
can still be attractive to someone because attraction is infinite. So these kind of boys and men who feel like they're kind of like stuck in this body and stuck in this expression because they feel like the two have to go together. Well, no one's explaining to them why it's not, so no wonder nobody understands. So I try to kind of like break all of that down and kind of explain it a bit so people can work out where they are on all the different
Yeah.
spectrums.
Cool. Yeah, I love that. Fluid kind of means a couple different things. Of course, it does. Even the definition of fluid resists definition, but it means the space between these definitions and the spectrumness. But you also mentioned at the beginning it means that things can change over time, and I think that's often something that gets forgotten in our heteronormative culture too. Is that
Mm.
we don't, you can know how you feel now, but who knows what will be later and what was in the past. Like you have a chapter called Can Sexuality Change? Tell us, what do you think of that, and like why is that a fluidity and changiness, why is that important?
I think it's really important because, of course, we're told in society that it can't. Like most people that you speak to, you ask, can your sexuality change? So I'd be like, well, no, you've got one true sexuality, and maybe it takes you a little while to work it out, but then it's set for life. Even if you're bi, it's kind of, this is it. Whereas the truth is, if we look at the research that's been done, and I go through a load of the research that's been done that's very, very clear,
Mm.
quite striking, actually, a lot of it. And we look also at the natural world. We look at animals. We look at our closest cousins in like the ape species and stuff like that. We see that fluidity exists. And so it's really important that people are aware of that, because you have people who maybe they are in a relationship, or maybe they want a relationship with one person, and they go, well, if my sexuality shifts or may shift in the future, then how on earth can I have a relationship? No one's going to love me. How am I going to do this? I'm untrustworthy.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's really important for people to understand that it is natural, so that they can be confident and find connections that work
Yeah.
for them. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
really important. There's one more thing that is really, really tough, which is that some people are quite fluid. Like every day they might have changing kind of attractions and stuff, like me. But then other people might have like one major kind of shift like in their life. And so it might happen in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and they might have a family, they might have a relationship. And
Mm.
like that can absolutely just destroy somebody, because they think, well, my life is over, and they can't understand it.
Yeah.
Nobody understands it. No one's there to talk to them. And so it's really important that we send a message that, you know what, this is okay. It's natural, and you
Yeah.
can come to understand it.
That's really interesting. I almost haven't thought of it like that before, because I think for me, similar to you, is like I notice changes all the time, maybe not daily, but sometimes. And certainly over the past 10 years, like lots of little changes and lots of new exploration and losing interest in other things, and swinging back and forth on the bi cycle in terms of gender too. But I, and like a lot of those shifts for me feel like pretty gradual, not huge. Like it's moving a little bit on the swinging a little, but I'm not going from one side to the other in an instant. And yet that is possible. And something can do that. And it might only happen once in someone's life. Like, I don't see that too often, but maybe that's because if that happens to someone, it's difficult and they're not necessarily going to talk about it or share it so openly the way you and I share these little moves that happen all the time. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's really interesting. Do you work with any, I mean, I don't want you to share any details, but like, do you work with anyone, or have you met people where that's the case, where it's like this one big shift that suddenly they have to deal with?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of how I discovered the reality of that, because obviously
Hmm.
I'm a bit like you. It's been fluid consistently. But I have worked with people who have experienced these things, and can be absolutely so challenging. The great thing is that I have actually got 8 wonderful fluid people of real different kinds who have all kind of written little sections in the book. So they have shared their experience. And so one of them is a wonderful person called Mike, who actually shared his story of having this kind of major life shift. And he talks about how difficult it was for him. And then you've also got another wonderful person called Ema, who also came to it like really late, kind of late in life, um, and now has a kind of polyamorous relationship and things. And so there's all different types of fluidity.
Hmm.
But yeah, absolutely, it's really tough if it happens suddenly.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. You read my mind. My next question to ask you was going to be about some of your contributors. And so you mentioned some of them there. That's cool that some of what you're talking about came from their experiences. Also, Gabriel Novo is a contributor who was a guest host of this podcast back in season 3, and also a guest. And Ross Victory, who's a friend of mine, who is a future guest on this podcast, I'm sure, among many others. What's something or any few things that stick out for you that you learned from working with these contributors on the book?
Oh, and yes, massive shout out to Gabriel and Ross. They were just so kind in sharing their unique experiences.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just wonderful to have them in the book. Um, so I'm just one person, and I'm always really kind of conscious of that. And I speak to thousands of people, like through my site and just like yourself, and through my coaching and mentoring and stuff like that. And so I gather all of this wealth of information to add to my personal lived experience, and obviously reading and researching and things. Um, but I really felt like I wanted to reflect different experiences in the book. Um, and I particularly wanted to have like a real diverse range, because it is such a broad area, fluidity, and to also see different types of people with different kind of intersecting identities represented. So we've got some like fabulous women uh, identified there. Actually, if you look at the research, women tend to have a higher degree or a higher propensity to fluidity. And it's
Hmm.
all about the different hormonal changes that come with menstruation and the different types of arousal, which I won't get into, but it's
Interesting.
amazingly fascinating. I'm just like,
Cool.
like women just blow my mind and they're amazing. So we've just got so just fabulous, fabulous accounts from women there.
They blow your mind. They blow my other things. Okay. Sorry. You
Rob,
can't
this
say
is a
blow on this. I'm a comedian now. You can't say women blow and not have me comment on that. Okay.
this is a family podcast, Rob. Well, it's not,
Is
is
it?
it?
Is it?
No, it's not. It's really not. This is the
maybe,
funny thing. This is the
maybe.
funny thing. I talk about sex and sexuality all day online, but I'm actually like the shyest, most kind of asexual, kind of polite British person who can hardly say bum without blushing. So I don't know
It
how
is
I got
funny.
into
That
this
is
line of
funny. I
work.
know. That is a funny incongruence. Yeah. I love it. I love it.
But there we go. But that's the thing. We are forced, aren't we, in a way, because we're born with these kind of different identities and things. So we have to talk about it. And it's like, well, I would love to be in a world where we didn't have to talk about it, all the time and write books and stuff. But I guess keeps me out of trouble doing all this. But yeah, we've got an amazing person who is trans and two spirit, and I really wanted to reflect that experience in the book because in a lot of cultures, fluidity and different kind of genders and sexualities were kind of accepted and understood kind of before colonization and things. And so, but it's kind of talked about in a way that maybe like a lot of people wouldn't understand. And so I just really wanted to um, have that included, and it's a wonderful explanation. And then we have couples. There's a couple in there who are also from a Muslim background, so talking about kind of how that intersects and things. So we've got a real wonderful
Cool.
mix of people.
Cool. I love that. And yeah, I wish we could go more into it, but everyone needs to just buy and read your book. The link will be in the show notes. And like, in addition to all the contributor stories are really interesting. The research you're mentioning a little bit of is really fascinating. Like, I know that we shouldn't need science to prove this stuff true, but like, it is helpful for many people, and myself included. Like, I grew up with this scientific background, psychology major. I love to make it make sense in that framework. And like, we're finding that it does. And a lot of the research they're doing is confirming these things that you and I have just felt and know to be true. And so I love that. Check out the book for much more of the research and the details. And yeah, it's funny that you shy from saying bum and yet are so open about many things. It also shows how, you and I are doing different things, but it's all the same. Like, it's openness, it's sharing, it's being comfortable with whatever it is. And you don't, some people are not as open about like specific sex things, and that's okay too. Just because you're bi or fluid or whatever or queer doesn't mean you have to be totally comfortable sharing every sex act. Like,
Yeah.
you are super vulnerable in your YouTube and your social media in your way. And like, the stuff you share is really intimate, even if it's not like saying the word dick or masturbation party the way I do. So thank
And
you
we
for
need
we need both. We need it all.
thank you
Both
for
ends.
saying dick and masturbation so freely.
You're welcome.
It's a beautiful thing.
How was that for you when you just said those words? What's going through your body as you say that?
Just a lot. It was hard.
Good. Good. I'm glad I can push you a little here. Okay. What I really think would be helpful for people I want to get into is like what you mentioned, sort of these exercises to understand your own attractions and what you really like and how to navigate that once the awareness is created. So I don't know if you want to take us through an exercise or just kind of in general tell us, like, how do you approach this? How do you suggest clients or readers approach this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the thing that I find most helpful is to kind of take away the labels, because, as we said before, we're often kind of expected to have these labels, try to fit them in. So what I often invite people to do is to kind of just put them to the side for a moment, and we can come back to them later. Um, because the labels are really, they're just a way for us to communicate to others something that might be important to us.
Mm-hmm.
But if we don't actually have that connection with what it is that's important to us, then we don't know what to say. So we put them aside. And what's sometimes helpful to do is to actually take some time and to just kind of ground yourself for a moment and think about, first of all, your physical body, and connect with your physical body, whatever shape or type your body is, and think of some things that you like about your physical body. That might be difficult for some people, might be easy for others. Think about some good traits, some nice things about your body, and try to do it without reference to gender. It's just your body. Um, and then you can kind of do the same with your personality. So, what kind of nice things might you have about your personality? Um, and so, kind of just thinking about that, you can write them down or whatever you like. And then the kind of second stage would be, again, without thinking about gender, think about if there was another body near to you. Like, what feelings or sensations would feel nice to you? Now behave, Rob.
If you could see what was inside my head right now, if I could project it.
Right. So that might be easier for some people than others to imagine. But just thinking about the sensations, like what kind of touch, like what kind of body would it be? Like a strong body, or would it be like a very delicate body? Would it be like kind of soft skin, or would it be like kind of hairy skin, or would it be like rough, or would it, just all these things? Just think about it, really kind of breaking it down. What would feel nice against your skin? And then you can kind of think about the energy or the personality that comes along with it as well. Like, now you've understood your personality or your energy. Like, what energy would you like close to you? Like, would it be like a warm person, a kind of a very like firm person, or whatever that might be? What would make you feel good? And you can kind of just build that up. And so what you will have by the end of this is a picture of what you are actually attracted to. And so rather than thinking, what's my sexuality? Am I gay, straight, bi, whatever? That doesn't really tell you anything, like we said before. By doing this, you actually have an understanding of what you're attracted to. And then instead of, as well, worrying about what is my gender, well, you've got a list of things that you like about your physical presence and things that you like about your emotional presence. Like, that's kind of a lot of what like gender is. So we can break this all down. And then the trick is to kind of get used to that practice, and then ask yourself in every moment, every day, every week, every whenever, what things would I like to be near to now in this moment? Or what do I like about the feel of my body now, today, or tomorrow night, or when I wake up in the morning, or whatever? So it's connecting with your body and listening into it and asking it, what is it like? What makes it feel good now? Rather than forever, fundamentally with certainty and no change. It's like having that ongoing conversation with your body. And what people often find is that your body will tell you, right? Your body will tell you what it wants. It's not
Mm.
complicated,
Yeah.
right? But it's, are we willing to actually listen in and think about it without the expectations of society, without reference to gender? And there you will find, perhaps you have a person with a very strong, firm, muscular body with a deep voice and a beard, but actually they really feel like they have a very gentle, nurturing personality that would like someone with another very strong body, perhaps, but
Yeah.
who also has a very like firm and assertive, or whatever. And so you can break down all of those things and really get to know who you are, and that might change, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Cool.
So
Cool. I love all that. I have a few things that I want to reflect on, like amazing. And there's so much more in the book and more exercises. I loved reading those exercises that because they strip away all the things we attach to these things, and they just are exercises designed to get in touch with yourself, whatever that is. I love when you added the now to that question, like, what do you like now? Because, for example, I used to not like this, the chest hair. I used to be ashamed of it. And I thought that that was always how it would be. And that, like, it was just, it was gross and women didn't like it. And some women told me they didn't like it. And now I love it. I embrace it. And it started with external validation. And then I internalized that over time. And so it shifted, and now I like it, and we'll see what it is in the future. And that's the same with my attraction too. I've realized, what do I like now is not necessarily what it will be or what it has been. And I also think something like what you said makes me think of is like it when I was first exploring this stuff and getting in touch with my true self, and I would think about what I liked or what I wanted or fantasized about, and my brain would immediately go to, well, what does that mean? What does this mean? Does this mean I'm not straight? Does this mean I can't marry a woman? Does this mean I'll be able to have kids? Does this mean my family will think this or that? Or does this mean I'll have to change my social? What does it mean? And I like what you're talking about is like, I'm curious for your opinion, but my reflection is almost like, don't worry about what it means right now. Like, what it means will present itself over time. It'll just happen. But for now, just be aware of what you like and who you are and what you like about yourself and other people. How do you see it? Do you see it as like, don't worry about what it means, or is there a different way you see it?
no, that is the perfect way of explaining it. And that's what I also used to worry about, and a lot of people that I speak to worry about. It's like, what does it mean? And
Yeah.
because we've got our natural self, right? Like we were saying before, our natural body, it will tell us what it wants because that's what bodies do. Everybody has a body, everybody has, emotions and everything. So it's all natural. And the best way to be most of the time is to just be your authentic self. That's the way your body wants to move. It wants to connect. It wants to flow. And so that's really what we want. But the meaning is about other people, right? It's about society. It's
Hmm.
about the tribe, the acceptance into uh, the the society. And so if you are worried about the way that people are going to see you or treat you, then that's okay. But if that then means that you are forsaking your natural authenticity and the way that your body really is asking to be touched, asking to connect, asking to flow, then you're going to be unwell. You're not going to be in your best state. And so that's why I invite people to focus first on connecting with your body, have a relationship with your body, get to know it. A lot of people don't know their own body
Yeah.
because they're
Yeah.
stuck with, what do people think? What does society want? So do that first. And then you can decide, okay, what is important enough to me that I want to or would like to communicate it to
To
other
share. Yeah.
people. And you don't
Yeah.
have to, because the buck stops with you. You are
Right.
you, and that's who you are. But
Right.
you might want to, so you can do it in different ways. And there are different words you can use,
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. The awareness is sort of the key, and the just like getting in touch with that for you. And you're absolutely right. You don't have to share anything, and you certainly don't have to share everything. Even me, who's like super open about most things, I don't share everything. And like that's okay. And wherever you are on that spectrum of how much you want to share and why is cool too. Also, what you just said made me think of this, and I think it's super important, is this idea of like thinking versus knowing. Like I feel like I'm an overthinker, or have been in my life. I look at everything from every angle. I go over it 10 times. It's like I often worry about the future, and that's my coping mechanism, and I'm deprogramming that. I'm trying to unlearn that. Plant medicine has been really helpful for that, but it's also just like a form of meditation. I find that when I'm meditating or just getting quiet, it allows me to not overthink, and it allows me to just know. And there are things in you that thinking can actually obscure them, and that you actually know them without having to think. And sometimes you have to do something like meditate or plant medicine that consciously put like allows you to not think so much and just know. And the truth will come if you get quiet enough. What do you think of that?
that is absolutely it. And as a fellow overthinker, I think a lot of LGBT people, a lot of people, particularly with less recognized identities like ours, we do overthink, and it's a response to living in a world that doesn't recognize or understand what's naturally going on inside us. So when we're young, we feel, we know what our natural sensations and desires and wants and needs are. And then that gets put through the filter of, oh, is this normal? Will I be accepted by people? And the answer,
Mhm.
of course, is no. And
Mhm.
so then we have to expend such a lot of energy overthinking, because we're constantly planning, constantly manicuring our, appearance and our expression, the way that we're moving, and kind of the way people see us, so as not to let them see what we really are. And of course, it's wonderful to hear that you have been able to heal. And I think a lot of what we do talking about it so much is our own kind of healing. Um, so when we heal from that, we get more confident in saying, okay, well, this is me. It might be a bit different to like
Yeah.
what society wants, but it's beautiful and it's wonderful. And so people who are still in, unfortunately, which is a lot of people, that state of fear, basically fear and trauma and anxiety, will be thinking. So it's like,
Yeah.
what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? What you're thinking is, well, what do people think of me? And it's understandable, and it's okay, because we still live in that very unaccepting world. But if we can learn slowly and gradually to listen in and get to know, at least, then we can decide, if it's safe to do so, what we want to share and what we don't.
Right. Beautiful. Yeah. Finding that truth for yourself, step one, and then you choose what you want to do with that. And there's no rules. And I love this conversation. I love going deeper on this stuff. And talking about fluidity. It's really a lovely umbrella. In some ways, it's almost a more clear umbrella than the bi umbrella, which is specific and cultural. And fluid is a little bit, feels very true to nature and earth and the energy of the universe to me. We have to end here, but I want you to stick around for a few minutes on Patreon. I want to see if we left anything out. I want to ask you about the dedication of your book, which is to your former self. Before we do that, any final thoughts? And also, where can people find your book? Is it already out?
Yeah, just to say, I mean, I love this conversation as well. And thank you so, so much for all that you do. I mean, I said before that this podcast was one of the things that I first listened to when I was coming to understand myself. So it's wonderful, wonderful what you do. And yeah, the book is really just for anyone who would like to understand their sexuality more, anyone who feels like they have a shifting or changing or complex or undefined sexuality, and anybody who is an ally or would like to just understand it more. So I would love to share it with you. You can find it basically by searching Fluid by Mark Cusack, and anywhere where books are sold, all the major kind of online booksellers will have it, and then it will be out in the UK, the States, Ireland, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, at least on the 21st of April.
Cool.
And you can buy it for yourself. So yeah, I'd love to hear what you think.
Awesome. Pretty sure this podcast will go out before that. So we'll put some links in the show notes. If you can search for it, you can also find it in the show notes. Pre-order it. It's lovely. I love the cover. It's really cool looking. It's a lovely addition to the bi bookshelf, or the fluid queer bookshelf. It does have the bi colors, so it fits with all your other bi
We got
books.
that in there.
I love it. It's the fluid colors now. Cool. Well, stick around for a minute, Mark. If you want to hear more with Mark, a little bit more, come visit us on patreon.com/Robert Brooks Cohen. Thank you all for listening. And thank you so much, Mark, for coming back on Two Bi Guys and for writing this book.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much, Rob.
Two Bi Guys by One Bi Guy is produced and edited by me, Robert Brooks Cohen, and it was created by me and Alex Boyd. Our new logo art is by Caitlin Weinman. Our music is by Ross Mincer. To help support this podcast, visit patreon.com/Robert Brooks Cohen. You'll get full video episodes, early access, and bonus content. Visit robertbrookscohen.com to learn more about my coaching, my book, and my stand-up comedy. And thanks for listening to Two Bi Guys by One Bi Guy.